So, my name is Nani. I am a student at mcad. I have a history of doing a lot of work with sound and mics and random sound stuff, so I will be doing the demo on audition. This is me. This is my cat. If you guys need me or anything and you're around, you can always go to the Learning Center. I work every Sunday, 12 to 5. And I can help you out with whatever you need, if you need assistance with mics or the sound studio or anything like that. And then, sorry for the noise in the background. It's really late and my monitor makes so many sounds and I didn't run a mic because it was a really busy day. So I hope you can understand everything I'm saying, even if there's a lot of noise in the background. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is open Audition. Audition works very much like any Adobe software, so the interface looks very much like Photoshop or Illustrator, so it should be fairly easy to pick up. The first thing we're going to do is create a new file. The way Audition works is with multi-track sessions. Those are essentially like your Photoshop file where you edit all your photos or whatever. So in here you can edit all your tracks, do all your fancy things, and it'll save your main file, and then you can export, separate tracks or whatever. So we can do Command N or just go File, New, Multi-Track Session. You should get this window over here that allows you to name your file and save it wherever you want to. So I'm going to go to Browse. I'm going to save it in my desktop, name it Demo. The sample rate, I'll keep it at 48. The bit depth, you can do 36, but 32, but I recommend 24. It just makes it safe. And in here you can pick your output. We're not going to do stereo because we don't have 2 channels per track. We just have mono audio. So let's just keep it like that. You hit OK, and you should have your file here. So this window in here, this panel right here essentially means it's your timeline where you put all your separate songs and edit them out, so you can have as many tracks as you want. This panel in here is where all your files are going to be, as well as the effect rack that I'll go over later. I'll go over this tools over here and the difference between waveform and multitrack in a bit. So this tools over here work essentially very straightforward, and I'll go through that. In here we have our controls, and that's essentially the interface. So first thing we're going to do is import, and that is what we're going to cover in this first chapter. So if we go to File, try not to pick an MP3. An MP3 essentially works as a JPEG, a 72 dpi, and then you print it out. It'll all get pixelated. There's not enough information on an MP3 for editing. So I recommend that whatever sounds you bring in are WAV files or anything but MP3s. I don't have WAV files on my computer right now, but I'll bring in a FLAC file, which is pretty big, it's pretty good, and Audition should convert it for me. So I'm going to bring 2 songs, just because we're going to edit them both at the same time. So as you saw, all your files are going to be piled up in here. So if I drag this into my timeline, it'll probably give me a warning that it's converting. So I'll take a little bit, and as soon as we convert something or create a different version of it, it'll pile up in here with all our files. This is the one that's converting right now. So you wait for a second. Bring that in as well. If you bring MP3s, it'll essentially do the same. So just be patient while your files convert, and as you can see, they're right here. So that is our first chapter. So now that we have both our files in here, if we hit play, it'll play them both at the same time. The only thing that this won't the only thing that'll make this won't happen is if we move this file to a separate place within the timeline. And as you can see, it won't start playing until we hit 1 minute and 10 seconds. It won't start playing until we hit 1 minute and 10 seconds. So then, what's a good way to single a file out if we have multiple? So there's a couple options. The first one is mute, which means that we can mute a bunch of files and just keep on muted the one that we want to listen to. However, the best way to do it and the quickest way is with single, which means that no matter how many songs we have, how many tracks we have in a multi-track session, it'll single that out. It'll single the one that we're choosing. So it'll basically automatically mute all other songs. So that's my favorite choice. The next button in here in our track panel is the R button, which means that we're allowing recording. As soon as we hit that up, we start listening to our levels on the internal mic or whatever mic we have chosen in our computer, and it allows the recording panel right here. So I can start recording my own voice right now, right there. And what you saw is because I had singled this out. But yeah, so those are basically the 3 buttons over here. So if I delete that, so let's cover editing. Let's single out our first track right here. So we're gonna edit this one. The first thing that we're gonna use is the eraser tool. The eraser tool essentially cuts and trims whatever we want to in our song, which is pretty nice. And you can drag the little piece of song, whatever, and it'll work as a separate track. Another thing that we can do immediately here is fade in and fade out, which is pretty nice. Let's place it right there. It's a pretty nice thing. If you see this little square, we can drag it and create a fade, a really nice wave. So whenever we start playing the music, it'll fade in rather than just playing at the highest volume, which is pretty nice transition from someone that's entering a sound piece. So I would recommend that you would definitely do fades, and you can do that at every, like, let's single this one out, at every top, like, you know, beginning of a track and bottom of a track. So I would definitely fade in and fade out. It's just a nice transition. Another thing that you can do that I'll teach you that we just did with the cut tool, razor tool, sorry, is that you can bounce off a track. So how that works is that, for example, if I want to loop this little bit of sound, I would first have to bounce it off, which I'm going to teach right now. You go here, bounce to new track, and you select the clips only if it's a clip, and it'll bounce it to your files as a separate little file that you can then edit. So as you see right here, this is our bounce file. So now if I want to loop that, I just click loop and then drag it, and it'll loop it forever. Which is a pretty nice thing to do. Remember that if you want to loop, just bounce it first. I'm going to get rid of this, and then bring that loop sound that we have, just so you can see how many, like, different, like, effects you can have. So if I play my loop clip with this other song, it layers it really nicely. I mean, quote unquote nicely. So that's pretty good. Next chapter we're going to cover how to edit on the waveform, and we'll use all these tools over here as well as the effect rack. Alright, one thing I didn't cover in the last chapter was the flip tool right here. And the way this one works is it basically drags the content within a loop track or an edited track So if I want to move it to play from this section right here instead of the very beginning, I single that out, it'll play from there. So it's a very useful tool for little things like that. So next thing we're going to cover is the waveform. So let's get rid of this and bring the bounds, the original bounds again. Select it and then go to you can double click it or just go to waveforms right here. I like to double click just to check that I picked the right thing, and we'll get our waveform. Very useful for like noise reduction or any type of editing that is very like particular. So you can do the zoom in, which it's always very nice if you want to edit like a little itty bitty section of your song. But let's keep the zoom out just for now so we can exaggerate all the changes that I'm going to do. So once you do waveform, you get all the access to all these tools right here. So you're very familiar with the marquee tool. You can select something and edit it out. I'm going to cut it out. So if I hit delete, it'll lose that information. So if I do play, maybe you can't listen to it right now, but there's only little sounds playing because I got rid of a big section of the song within the waveform. So there's literally no information right here. So let's stop playing. Go back to this. I'm gonna do Command Z just because I don't want to do that. You can also have a lasso selection tool, which essentially you select that. Command D to select. Lasso tool essentially does the same thing. Just gives you freedom to cut and clip whatever it is that you want to edit. So let's do this right here on below. And I'm going to do delete just so you guys can see all the changes that happened to that little piece of the song. So if I hit play, I don't know if you can listen to it, but it's not playing. It's only playing like the high notes. So yeah, that's essentially what the lasso tool does. And then we have the paintbrush. It's kind of weird, but I'll use it just so you can see the effects that it does. So then I'm gonna get rid of that. I think I'll just make everything blurry and distorted. So if I hit play, yeah, it just distorted the song a little bit. So I'm gonna Command Z. You're going to want that. And then the healing brush, which is essentially what it is. It cleans up, it does a little noise reduction and heals a little bit of the song. Okay, I don't know why I didn't like it for it. There we go. Okay. Maybe we need to pick a lot less information. I think that's what it's yelling at. Whoa. Go a little back. Okay. Let's see what happens if we do that. Did it let me? Yeah. What happened was it didn't let me like heal that much of a song, so I had to zoom in to give myself a little less time within the clip to edit. So then if we hit play from here, because that's where we... You're everything that I see. You're everything that I see. You're everything that I see. I don't know if you saw that, but we basically changed the waveform, so it did a little like distorted piece of the song. But that's essentially what all these tools do. And you Command C because I don't want that to happen. And I'm gonna zoom out, because I'm going to do an effect. And that's going to be our last thing that we're going to do in this demo. So, the way you do is that if you pick the time selection tool and you select a little bit of a song, that sounds good. Let's select a little less. I think this should be good. And we don't go to the effects rack. This is what we get. So Audition CS6 is kind of tricky. So make sure that you do the last step if you want to see your effect happen. So if we go to the arrow right here, we can add as many effects as we want to one clip, and we do amplitude and compression because that's my favorite effect. It just clears out the sound. And let's do amplify. There's a lot of things that you can mess around with. I'm not gonna go through all of them, but just make sure that you try to use all of them in your sounds just to see what happens. So I'm gonna change this to that, close out. And right now it's enabled, but if I do play, it'll only preview it. So then if I leave my little section and then go play it again and turn that off, it'll essentially not use it. So the only way that you have that effect forever in your track is that if you click apply, and that is something that you need to remember, because then you'll go back to your track and you'll be like, what happened? And essentially what happens is that you didn't apply the effect. So it'll only play in preview mode when you're editing it on your waveform. So if I do apply, now you see that it applied the effect to what I had selected. And you can see that obviously on the waveform. So right there, see how that changed? And this is a really nice effect for noise reduction, the amplify one. So if that's what you're looking for, definitely hit that up instead of noise reduction. So now what I can do, if I go to my multi-track again, is that you see how my song changed because I applied the effect. If I didn't have applied it, it wouldn't have changed. It would have just been in preview because I had enabled it. So the way you want to do to export, which is the last thing we're going to cover, is that you select the tracks that you want, and you go File, Export. I'm going to delete, start from the bottom because I don't want that in there. I just want this little piece of information. I go File, Export, multi-track mix down, entire session. If you have more tracks, you could do time selection, but let's just do entire session. And then I would recommend that you output it as a WAV file. An AIFF file is also good, but keep it on WAV file. Don't do an MP3 audio. This is the best quality sound you're going to get. So then you can obviously choose where to put it. I'm going to put it on my demo file. You can change a lot of things in here, but usually keep it as you first started it with the same format. And then click OK. It's exporting right now. And then if I go to Finder and I go to Demo, it's right there. I'm going to preview it. That's where we made the changes. We changed the amplitude. So there goes your file. And that's all you need to know for basics of Audition.